The back corridor wasn't meant for anyone except staff. Crates stacked unevenly, cords coiled like snakes on the concrete. A sign half peeled from the wall, reading employees only. But people kept squeezing through anyway, because the main line was jammed. Bodies spilled from the club into the service lane, where the air smelled like metal and disinfectant. And that's when the first mistake happened. A girl with a glitter phone case swung around too fast, trying to show her friend something on screen, and the phone flew straight out of her hand, hit V in the chest, and dropped into a puddle by his boot with a wet slap that made 3 people turn at once. Someone let out a noise, sharp, embarrassed, too bright for a hallway this grim, and then tried to cover it with a cough that only drew more attention. The girl, horrified, lunged forward, not even looking at V, just grabbing for her phone, mumbling, sorry, wait," while her friend hissed, pick it up. But the damage was already spreading. A guy behind them squinted, leaned in, stopped mid-step, then jerked back like he'd walked into the wrong room. A bartender carrying crates clipped his shoulder on V, muttered, "Staff?" under his breath, barely glancing up before realizing the vest V was wearing wasn't uniform at all, freezing mid-turn, cheeks twitching as he tried to rewind reality in his head. A girl with pink braids whispered, way too loudly, "No way, that's him," then immediately clapped a hand over her mouth, eyes darting around, pretending she hadn't said anything. V didn't move, but the people around him did. Micro steps, awkward pivots, the kind that say, "I shouldn't be here," even as they lean closer. One guy tapped V's arm like pressing a doorbell, blurting, "Hey, can you help me find the sound tech? Sorry. Wait, are you?" And then stopped, mouth hanging, his friend tugging his sleeve hard, practically yanking him backward. Nearby, 2 staff members argued about a broken cable, one of them pointing directly at V without realizing it, saying, "Ask him." And when the other turned and recognized the face, the gesture collapsed into a fumbling half wave, half apology, like his hand didn't know which direction to commit to. The corridor grew tighter, shoulders bumping, someone stepping on someone else's shoe, a girl stumbling into a stack of crates that clattered loudly enough to make everyone flinch. Someone said, "Is he working tonight?" And someone else snapped, "Why would he?" before cutting off mid-sentence, as recognition hit them sideways. Phones appeared and disappeared in the same second. Lifted, lowered, lifted again. Nervous, guilty, jittery. A guy tried to play it cool, pretending to stretch while aiming his camera, but his elbow hit a metal pipe, and the clang rang out like an alarm. The staff sign above flickered. A woman in a headset rushed over, grabbed V lightly by the wrist, as if he belonged there, blurting, "Come on, they need you near the rigging," then froze when someone behind her choked out a strangled, "That's V. What are you doing?" Her hand dropped instantly. Too late. The whisper moved through the crowd. Wrong volume, wrong rhythm, wrong everything. Fractured, repeating, echoing off concrete in messy bursts. People shifted in a clumsy semicircle. Not an audience, not fans, just a confused knot of bodies realizing simultaneously that he wasn't part of the staff, wasn't supposed to be here, wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this corridor. A guy in a security jacket pushed through, looked V in the eye, then looked at the others staring, then back at V, and muttered the slowest, most miserable, "Oh," as if the world had handed him the wrong script. The crowd reacted the way crowds do when they don't know where to look. Too much movement, too little sense. Someone laughed, immediately apologized to no one. Someone else whispered, "Don't film," while filming. A girl elbowed her way forward and instantly regretted it, stepping back so fast she hit another girl who squeaked like she'd touched something live. And in the center of it, V stood completely still, while everything around him made it obvious, painfully, publicly, that every person here had just realized the same thing at different, jagged, irreversible moments. They had mistaken him for staff, and now they didn't know what to do with their eyes, their phones, or themselves. The apology came from the wrong person first. A boy in a beanie who hadn't even touched V, stepping forward with his hands half raised like he was surrendering, blurting, "Sorry, man. Wait, I mean, sir. No, not sir. Shit, never mind." And then immediately backing straight into a mop bucket, knocking it over with a splash that soaked the floor and sent a sour chemical smell curling up into everyone's faces. A girl shrieked, but too late, too high. Turning heads she didn't want turning, and her friend snapped, "Stop freaking out," even though she was shaking herself. Someone near the crates whispered, "He shouldn't be back here." And a different voice fired back, "Then why is he?" Like it was an accusation aimed at the air. A staff guy tried to push through, holding a clipboard like a shield, muttering, Employees only, employees only, until he looked up, saw V, and instantly folded the clipboard against his chest, eyes wide, whispering, "No, no, no," as if saying it could undo whatever was happening. A girl in oversized sleeves tugged her friend's arm and whispered, "Don't stare," while staring directly at him, her phone slipping from her sleeve and dangling from its charm strap like a caught fish. The puddle was spreading across the concrete now, reflecting the flickering sign above them, warping V's reflection so it looked like two faces instead of one. A guy stepped into it without noticing, slid half a meter, windmilling his arms and grabbing the nearest person, who happened to be V's manager, by the jacket, yanking him sideways into a stack of folding chairs that clattered like an announcement nobody wanted. Someone laughed. Wrong timing, wrong tone. Then immediately smacked their own mouth as if they could physically shove the sound back in. The corridor tightened again, bodies bunching without coordination, people trying to move toward the exit and away from it at the same time, bumping shoulders and elbows, making soft half words like, "Sorry, wait, can you, oh God," that dissolved before meaning anything. The woman with the headset returned, saw V standing exactly where she'd grabbed him earlier, and let out a helpless, "No, no, 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 why are you still?" before choking on her own sentence when three girls lifted their phones in unison, pretending they were checking messages, but angling the screens just barely too high to be accidental. The beanie guy, still dripping from the mop water, stood off to the side, muttering, I said sorry, even though no one was looking at him anymore. A man with tattoos across his neck pointed directly at V and asked the staffer beside him, "Is he allowed here?" And the staffer stammered, He's not allowed, but he's not oh my God." A door at the far end of the corridor slammed open, and a bouncer shouted, "Who moved the crates?" Then stopped mid-breath when he spotted V, blinking rapidly like his brain was skipping frames, before lowering his voice to a harsh whisper, "You can't be in this section." The whisper wasn't quiet. It sliced clean through the noise, turning every head. Phones rose a little higher, eyes widened. A girl gasped like she'd seen something sacred and forbidden at the same time. Someone muttered, "Is he working? Is he rehearsing? Is it a prank?" Someone else said, "No, he's lost," and immediately clapped a hand over their mouth because the word lost didn't fit his image at all. The mop bucket sloshed again when someone stepped on its edge, a messy repeat of the earlier mistake, and the noise ricocheted through the corridor like a confirmation none of them wanted. V wasn't staff, wasn't expected, wasn't in control, and now every single pair of eyes was trapped in that same awful realization at different speeds, staring, pretending not to stare, filming, pretending not to film, crowding in even as they tried to step back. And every reaction made the scene tighter, uglier, more impossible to undo. The chain reaction didn't explode. It tangled. A girl near the middle tried to squeeze past, muttering, "Sorry, excuse me, I need to get through." But her backpack swung wide and smacked straight into V's arm with a dull thud, making her freeze mid-step, eyes going huge as if she'd just punched a museum exhibit. "Oh my God, sorry, I didn't mean," she stammered. But her friend grabbed her hood and dragged her backward so fast she nearly tripped, whispering, stop talking, which only made 5 more people look. A guy in a jacket with a venue logo finally tried to fix the situation by stepping right up to V and saying, loud enough for too many people, "Sir, this is the staff zone. You need to return to the guest path," like he was scolding someone who didn't know the rules. And then his face collapsed when he actually looked at V, his voice faltering, sentence cracking in the center. I mean, just, hang on. Don't move." Behind him, a girl let out a snort, trying to suppress a laugh, then covered it up with a fake cough that sounded worse than the laugh, while a guy in a leather jacket whispered, "Bro just told V to leave," and immediately elbowed his friend because he'd said it too loudly. 3 girls at the back raised their phones simultaneously, pretending they were capturing the crates or the sign, but their lenses shook, too jittery, too obviously pointed wrong. Someone hissed, "Put it down." Someone else whispered, "Are we allowed to film?" And another muttered, "It's happening anyway," while adjusting their angle. The puddle from the mop bucket spread under people's shoes, making the floor slick, and a boy stepping backward slipped halfway, grabbing the first thing in reach, V's sleeve, before recoiling like he'd touched electricity, stammering, sorry, as he tried to wipe mop water off his hand using his shirt. A staff member rushed in to restore order, shouting, "Everyone move!" but ended up pushing straight into a girl who stumbled into a crate stack, which toppled dangerously before a guy caught it with both hands, yelling, "Watch it!" and instantly looking horrified because he'd yelled next to V. Someone whispered, "Why is he even here?" And someone else said, "Maybe he came for someone." And another asked, "Is it a secret shoot?" And the questions overlapped, messy, contradictory, building a pressure that nobody knew how to release. A woman with laminated credentials stepped forward like she had authority, pointing at V with a pen, saying, "You're not on the list for this section. You need to, wait. Oh no." Her hand dropped. The pen fell. Someone stepped on it and skidded, knocking into a guy who knocked into another girl, who let out a startled yelp that echoed down the corridor. The sound made V's manager flinch, which made 3 people gasp because even that tiny movement looked like confirmation that something was wrong. 2 teenagers squeezed in from the main hallway, asking, "Is something happening?" And before anyone could stop them, one said, "Is that? No, it can't be. Wait, it is." And the words hung there, crooked and irreversible. The security guard from the main entrance finally reached the corridor, scanning the crowd like he was expecting a fight, then spotting V and freezing with his mouth open before blurting, "You can't stand here," and instantly regretting it. A girl with neon nails covered her face with both hands and whispered, "This is so embarrassing," though she wasn't talking about herself. A phone fell from someone's pocket and clattered across the floor, landing face up with the camera app open. 2 people lunged for it at the same time, bumping shoulders, the impact making one of them gasp loudly enough to startle everyone again. The entire crowd became a single confused organism, people tripping, apologizing, whispering, filming, not filming, staring, pretending they weren't staring, trying to move him, trying not to touch him, trying to undo the mistake already made. And in the middle of the corridor, V hadn't stepped forward or backward, but the world around him had already pulled so tight that even breathing felt like part of the spectacle, forcing everyone close enough to feel it, and close enough to know there was no undoing any of it now. The breaking point didn't come from V or the staff. It came from a girl who walked in late, earbuds still in, eyes glued to her screen, not seeing the crowd until she slammed straight into someone's back and shouted, too loud, "Why is everyone blocking the hallway?" Her voice sliced through the noise like a knife, and when she finally looked up and saw V in the center of the mess, her jaw dropped open so violently her gum fell out onto the floor with a wet slap. The sound made 3 people jump. One guy barked out a nervous laugh, then clamped his hands over his mouth, mortified. A staff member tried to shush everyone, waving his arms, but accidentally smacked a girl's phone right out of her hand. It spun across the concrete, camera still recording, and stopped inches from V's foot. Someone whispered, "Don't touch it." Someone else whispered, "Pick it up." And no one moved. A man at the back muttered, "Jesus Christ," stepping forward like he meant to help. But a teenager grabbed his sleeve and yanked him back, whispering, "No, are you crazy? Look where he is." Phones were rising again, slow, guilty, crooked. And the corridor tightened to the point where elbows touched strangers, and everyone pretended that wasn't happening. The staffer who'd told V to move earlier stood rigid now, staring straight ahead, face red, as if praying the building would swallow him. A girl near the crates whispered, "This is getting bad," but whispered it too loudly, making heads turn, making her freeze. And V, still silent, stood in a space that no longer felt like a hallway, just a trap of bodies and mistakes. Everyone trying to act normal, while every gesture made it worse. Everyone waiting for someone else to fix the moment that none of them were willing to own. The air felt off balance, stretched thin, one wrong movement away from collapsing entirely. It finally snapped when someone, no one ever figured out who, said, way too clearly, "Can someone tell him he's not supposed to be here?" The sentence hit the corridor like a dropped tray, sharp, metallic, humiliating. A guy near the wall winced so hard his shoulders curled in, and a girl beside him whispered, "Oh my God, don't say it like that." But the words were already out, hanging in the air with no owner willing to claim them. A staffer stepped forward as if to intervene, but his foot landed in the mop water, and he stumbled, grabbing the nearest shoulder, which belonged to a fan who instantly yelped, "Don't push me toward him," in a panic-fueled voice that echoed louder than anything else so far. Phones came up again, instinctively, hungrily, and someone hissed, "Stop filming," even while filming themselves. A boy pressed against the crates muttered, "This looks so bad," eyes darting between V and the crowd, as if searching for an exit that didn't exist. A girl took one careful step back and knocked into another, who bumped a third, and suddenly the whole front row shuffled like a broken row of dominoes, all trying not to fall and all failing at looking casual. A security guard lifted his hand as if to clear space, but froze halfway, realizing any touch would become the next clip. The tension twisted once, hard, and the hallway seemed to fold in on itself. Too many bodies, too many eyes, too many half-swallowed reactions, until the only thing that made sense was movement. Any movement, even the wrong one. And that's when V's manager finally said, under his breath but still audible, "We're leaving." It wasn't a rescue. It wasn't a command. It just happened. And the moment it did, the crowd parted badly, staggered, clumsy, unprepared. People tripping over crates, puddles, each other, scrambling to make room, while also trying to keep their cameras steady. No one cheered. No one breathed right. No one pretended they hadn't seen what they'd seen. As V walked out of the corridor, the phones didn't drop. They multiplied, flickering like a row of tiny open doors. Not a single person said his name out loud this time. They didn't need to. The scene itself was the name, the headline, the question. And the question clung to the hallway long after he was gone, thick and sour and impossible to shake. What was he doing there?